Hi, this is Todd Stubendek. I'm the State Director of AARP Nebraska. Welcome to our live stream today on protecting older adults from COVID-19 scams. We're very lucky to be joined by Seth Boffeli of AARP's Fraud Not Watch Network. He's an expert on these scams and how to protect ourselves from them. And we're going to tap into his knowledge today to give us a little more information on what's going out there and how we can protect ourselves. Seth, like I said, is an advisor to AARP's Fraud Watch Network. He has over 20 years of experience in communications and has been with AARP since 2011. Seth, why don't you tell us a little bit about your work and the work of AARP Fraud Watch Network?
Yeah, thanks, Todd. It's great to be on here. I'm actually coming to you today from my guest room in a finally warm St. Paul, Minnesota. I've been, like you said, I've been with AARP since 2011. The last couple of years, I've been with the Fraud Watch team, and really, what my job entails is working with all of our 50 state offices to address fraud outbreaks in each state and to do proactive prevention messages with each state and with their residents. AARP has a dedicated team, and we put a lot of resources into protecting people from frauds and scams. And one of the interesting things that we always talk about is our studies show that if you know about a scam ahead of time, you're 80% less likely to engage in that scam when it comes on your cell phone, on your home phone, or on your computer. And so that's why the work that we're doing here today is so important, because if we arm people with information about what these scams entail, that means 80% of them won't click that link, won't pick up that phone, and that's the best way to protect ourselves.
Well, I will tell folks that Seth is a great resource and full of a lot of knowledge on this. And so we're very grateful he's here and looking forward to learning more from him today. So unfortunately, we're seeing a big uptick of COVID-19 related scams. Can you give us a few examples of those scams so that we're armed with that knowledge you're talking about and make us less likely to fall victim to them?
For sure. Scammers are always looking for uncertain times. And, I can't think of a time in my lifetime that's been more uncertain than right now. We have a lot of uncertainty over healthcare. We have a lot of uncertainty over the economy. We have a lot of uncertainty over our jobs. And we have a lot of uncertainty over this new experience of being safer at home, sort of isolated from our networks. So all of that really makes for the perfect storm for scammers. So we're seeing everything from fake testing sites that pop up in your neighborhood that are offering you a coronavirus test for $350 or your Medicare number that are completely fraudulent. We're seeing people getting texts saying, click this link to find out where your economic assistance payment is. And those links are either malware for your computer or they're phishing scams that are trying to get your personal information that can be used then to steal your identity. We're seeing, I know that you experienced this in Nebraska last year with the flooding. Whenever there's a catastrophe, the fake charity scams pop up. So we're seeing that. We're really seeing all of them. And like I said, there's a lot of uncertainty. The one thing scammers try to do is they try to get their victims, we call it in the ether. So get you feeling anxious or create that sense of anxiety that takes you out of your normal headspace and affects your decision making. So you make decisions that aren't as sort of reasoned or well thought out as you normally would. And sort of right now, lots of us are in that headspace already. And, our phones are right next to us. Our computers are right next to us. And so the scammers have us right where they want us. And so it means that they are descending quite literally on AARP members from one end of the country to the other.
You talked a little bit about phishing. Can you tell us a little more what that is and how that presents itself?
Yeah, so I think people kind of are starting to get, don't answer the phone if you don't recognize the number. But the phishing scams are a little harder to not kind of engage in because they do a very good job of packaging them in an email that looks legitimate. So sometimes it could be an email from your bank saying, we've found, and I shouldn't say from your bank, an email that looks like it's from your bank saying that we found a suspicious transaction on your account. To check if it's fraudulent or not, click this link. And so when you click that link, again, it either downloads some sort of software program onto your computer that allows them to steal your personal information, or it might be a fake login site for your bank. So you go on there and you type in your real login and your real password, and it goes nowhere. But now that scammer has the information to get into your bank account. And these are starting to migrate from emails to the text platform. And so the same thing sort of happens. We saw early on when Congress was working on getting some financial assistance out there, we saw a lot of text scams saying, click this link to sign up to be first in line to get your economic assistance payment. And so it would ask for, your name, your address, maybe your social security number, those type of things that we should not be giving away to anybody that we don't know.
The other thing I'm seeing a lot, going back to the phone stuff, is the number comes up and it's in my local area code, and I think that's called spoofing. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it absolutely is. There's a whole line of frauds and scams that we call imposter scams, where the scammer is trying to impersonate someone that they're not. And sometimes it's the IRS or the federal government, but most often they're trying to impersonate somebody in your neighborhood. And so they will use technology to mask their actual caller ID and make it look like it's in your area code. And so people are, especially today's day and age where everyone's phone number is in your phone. I remember a time when I knew my closest circle of friends' telephone numbers by heart, or I had it written down somewhere, or it was on auto dial. And now I rely on my phone to tell me that. And so I don't always recognize a number when it comes in. It doesn't always have that caller ID that says their name. So if it's from, Los Angeles, I'm probably not gonna answer that. But if it's got the same first 6 digits, I'm gonna say, hey, wait, this is somebody in my neighborhood. It must be somebody I know, and then pick up that phone and engage. And even if you pick up the phone and realize it's a scam, hang up. Sometimes people like to play with the scammer, so you'll answer some questions and then you'll say, like, you're just trying to rip me off, and you hang up. The thing is that though, these aren't just, guys in their basement trying to rip people off. These are legitimate overseas businesses, and they're tracking who picks up their phone and who doesn't. And so if you pick up your phone, you get on a list that means here's someone who's likely to pick up their phone. And if you're likely to pick up your phone, that just increases the chances that you'll become a victim. And so that, by engaging with these criminals, means that you're going to continue to get more and more calls.
I'll say every day this week I've gotten a call around the same time during the day from a local area code, and I picked it up the first day, and it was a recording telling me it was Verizon and that they had suspended my account, and I just needed to enter my PIN number to get my account back working. Now, what's sort of ironic is I don't know how I would be getting the call from Verizon if they had suspended my service. But yeah, that's a new one out there where they were trying to get my PIN number to my account so that they, I'm sure, do whatever they wanted with my account at that point. So they're always coming up with something new out there.
They definitely are, and I think that, there's this bad news, good news happening right now. And the bad news is that scammers are, unleashed with full force. The good news is they're really the same old scams that we've always seen. And so the same things that protected yourself before still work. One of the things that we're seeing is, I'm sure lots of your members are familiar with the grandparent scam. And so the way it traditionally works is that a grandparent gets a call from just a voice that says, "Grandma, it's me, I'm in trouble." And grandma says, "Is this Timmy?" And the scammer said, "Yeah, it's Timmy. I'm on spring break. I got in a fight. I got arrested, and I need $3,000 to get me out of jail." Well, now Timmy was feeling sick, so he went to the drugstore to get medication, but he forgot his wallet and got a car accident, and now he's in jail and really needs to go to the doctor because he might have coronavirus. And so it's the same thing. It's the same scam. It's just twisted a little bit to make it relevant to coronavirus. But the same way to protect that is to either not pick up your phone or say, okay, I'm going to call you back. Call the local sheriff or call Timmy or Timmy's mom and dad, and just verify that person you're talking to is really who they say they are.
As I learned more about this, I'm surprised at how sophisticated scams like that have gotten, that they're even individualized, that these scammers actually go onto people's Facebook page to learn sort of information about you to make their pitch more believable. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, they really are. In some cases, these are overseas, phone operations where, from business hours, the people might be answering customer service calls for a legitimate corporation, and then they go to their second job, which is basically calling people, and it works the same. They have a script, they have prompts, they have supervisors. They are they're incentivized based on how successful they are. And so I mean, this is important because people fall victim to it. It happens. They are so sophisticated, and when that happens, our initial reaction a lot of times is to to feel shame, to not tell anybody. And it's so important not to do that because, number one, they are really sophisticated operations, and it's easy to fall victim if you're not careful. And number two, like I said at the beginning, the best way to protect your friends, neighbors, and family is to talk about it. And so if you tell someone about something that happened to you, or even an attempted scam that happened to you, there's an 80% chance that person's not going to fall victim to it.
Yeah. And you touched on it a little bit, but let's go more into details. Overall, what's the best way for people to protect themselves from falling victim to one of these scams? I think we have a slide on this that you can walk through.
Yeah, so we're used to the public health mantras these days. Wash your hands, cover your cough, stay 6 feet away. So we have our own mantras, which are don't pick up the phone if you don't know the number. Be wary of suspicious links. If you get a phone call or an email from your credit card company, instead of dialing the number on the email or the link on the email, take out your credit card and turn it over and call the number on the back, because that is the legitimate number. And if you do have something wrong with your account, you'll find out there. And then never, ever, ever give away your personal information, especially your Social Security number or your Medicare number if you're on Medicare, over the phone. Never give it out to anybody who isn't your healthcare provider.
And are we still seeing things specifically related to the stimulus check scams on that?
They still are. The checks are out for most folks, but there's still people who are trying to either find their check or find where their payment went to, and so that is still happening. What we're seeing kind of on the economic scams, I'll call them, is they are transitioning to be more about unemployment. So work from home scams are really happening quickly right now. And so just to give you an example of how one would work is that there are these secret shopper job opportunities. And so you get hired to be a secret shopper, and say they want you to buy electronic equipment. So what the scammer will do will send you a check that you get to deposit in your account. You keep a certain amount for yourself as your payment. Then you go out and you buy the electronic equipment and mail it back to them in a certain amount of time. Well, what happens to people who fall victim to this is that once they cash the check, buy the electronics, send it back in the mail, they find out that check was no good. It was a fake check, and now they've spent their own money to buy electronics for somebody else. So that's one example. A lot of these other the work from home scams too can just be another way to get your personal information, get you to fill out a survey with some personal identifying information, and that they can then use against you.
So overall, we're hopefully giving folks the information so they can be a part of that 80% who don't fall for scams with the information. But if you have been a victim of one of these, or think you've been a victim of one of these scams, what should you do?
Yeah, so the first thing to do is if you've actually been victimized, if you've lost money, you want to call your local law enforcement. They should be the first place to reach out to. And I'll be honest, they can't always recover your money, and sometimes the criminal is overseas. But it's important that they know, because these scams they literally go state to state, and so it's important for local law enforcement to know these scams are happening, because then they can look for them other ways. And they are, in some cases they are able to, especially if it's a local. We've seen more door-to-door scams during the time of coronavirus than we normally do. So initially, we heard reports from different states of people literally going door to door in hazmat suits, saying that they could come in and offering to fumigate your house, or get rid of any viruses in your house for a fee. So either they were getting paid for this service, or they just wanted to get in your house so they could steal stuff. And so in those cases, if it was somebody in person at your door, there's a great chance that local law enforcement can track them down. But if you've lost money, been victimized, that's the first stop. If you just want to report, or if you're looking for resources, we actually have a great resource in an 800 number that's staffed by AARP volunteers, and you can call, talk to a live person, get some guidance, get some direction. Sometimes people just need support, and that's what the volunteers are there for. So our AARP Fraud Watch helpline is 877-908-3360. And another great resource is our website, which has information on all these scams we're talking about, articles on the latest trends and frauds and scams, and also actually there's a map, so you can look up your own zip code, find out what scams have been reported, and that URL is aarp.org/fraud watch network.
Okay. My understanding is one of the things that keeps people from reporting this is sort of the embarrassment of having been scammed by these folks. Can you talk a little bit about that, and I think encourage folks that that these are sophisticated scams, and a lot of people fall victim to them, and there should not be sort of that shame of being a victim of a crime.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Todd, because one of the things that makes somebody particularly vulnerable to scams is being isolated. So either you're older and you live in a rural community and you don't have family, or maybe you're single, but that loneliness, that need for connection, is something that scammers prey on. And it's an interesting thing in today's times, because a lot of us are feeling isolated for the first time ever. And we are seeing trends that show that scammers are capitalizing on this. One of the most fastest reported scams in the last couple of weeks is the fake pet scams. And so I don't know about your Facebook feed, but on my Facebook feed, it seems like every other person is buying a dog or a cat. And so that's really happening across the country. So, and that's something people don't really know. The Better Business Bureau did a study a couple of years ago that when you go into Google and search for pet adoption or pet sales, the sponsored ads that come up, about 80% of those are potentially fraudulent. So you have a scammer that has a web designer on his staff or her staff. They are building these slick-looking websites where they take other pictures off the internet of cute puppies and kitties and put them on there. And then, when you first make your purchase, and then you get an email that says there's veterinary fees, so then you pay that, and then you get an email saying there's taxes, and then you pay that, and then there's shipping fee. And so they just kind of nickel and dime you to the point that you finally realize that there is no puppy or kitty or coming. But I think the really crueler ones are the romance scams, and we're seeing a lot of those right now. And that is another area where it's not just people that are, looking for a date. It's people that need an emotional connection. And the only really way that they have to do that is over the internet. So through Facebook or other websites. And they usually start on Facebook, and then they kind of move to the phone and email. And this is another area where the scammers are really sophisticated. They're almost like psychologists. They take their time, they build that emotional connection. It starts off as just a friendly chat and then moves into like kind of a deeper bond. And then once that bond is established, then they start to try to get money. So my car broke down and I want to come see you, but I need to fix my car. So there's payments for that. Or, I have a charity that I'm helping, wounded veterans. Can you contribute to it? And so once that connection is made, then that victim is really in a dangerous place, because even when they start to figure it out that like, wait, this is 3 times now that this individual hasn't shown up in the airport when they were supposed to show up, then the scammer moves from affection to shame. And then when shame doesn't work anymore, then they move from shame to fear. And so they really psychologically manipulate these people, knowing that admitting to their family that they've fallen victim to a romance scam is something that people just do not want to do, because it is so personal and embarrassing. And so that's one thing we can't do enough of, is just let people know that this is happening, that these people are sophisticated, and it's not their fault. It happens to a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah, I didn't know they were involving puppies. That's too far.
I know, it's the cruelest of all.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you've mentioned quite a few of them. I just want to give you a chance. Are there any other sort of non-COVID related scams that people should be aware of out there right now?
Yeah, there's kind of some oddballs. There's sort of work from home. So another take on that is car wraps. So scammers will get you to pay to get, something put on your car, in expectation that you're going to get paid for it, and you don't. So it really is all of the above are happening right now. And so it's definitely a time to be leery of really anything that you see. We always say if it seems like too good to be true, then it likely is. But because we're in this time where people are really anxious, either for that stimulus payment or to find out when they can get a test or for the next job, these are all things where we're home, we're by the phone, we're by the email, we're waiting for good news. And these scammers are there ready to pounce and sort of deliver the fake good news that's going to make us make ourselves vulnerable.
Tell us again where people can go to get more information about the AARP Fraud Watch Network.
Yeah, so the best thing is the AARP Fraud Watch website, which is aarp.org/fraud watch network. And then also we have an 800 number, 877-908-3360.
Are there ways for people who want to get involved with your work to help out?
Yeah, if you're interested, we have a team of, first you could contact the Nebraska State Office. I know you guys are always looking for great volunteers, and you do great work on fraud prevention. We have a team of digital fraud fighters, and so if you wanted to join, basically what our digital fraud fighters do is we send them some of these stories, clips, fact sheets, and then they just share them with their community. You can sign up. You can just shoot an email to fwn@aarp.org and ask about the digital fraud fighters, and we can get you signed up for that.
Okay. Any parting comments?
Well, thanks so much for what you're doing. It's really important. We have to continue to spread the word. These scams have started literally from the first days of the outbreak of the coronavirus, and they're not ending anytime soon. And so whenever there's disinformation, whenever there's confusion, scammers are going to be there. And, we are in for a long slog with this virus, unfortunately. And so whether it's, state closures, state openings, vaccine availability, treatment, like all of these things are opportunities that scammers are going to take advantage of. And we sort of have to be the detectives. We have to do our own due diligence to figure out what's real and what's fake.
Well, on behalf of AARP Nebraska, thank you for your time, Seth. We really appreciate this information. It's been very, very informative.
Thanks so much, Todd.
Great. Thank you.
Bye-bye.